Good day, everyone. Our group will be presenting our collaborative work about multicultural and global literacy. The members of our group are Doc Simafranca, Jimari Datolio, Kevin Diginion, and Zenas Armando.
So before we will discuss this module, we will first enumerate the learning outcomes. Number 1, discuss global and multicultural literacy. Number 2, illustrate the global competency framework. Number 3, explain the dimensions of multiculturalism. Number 4, elucidate the assessment strategy for global competence and global understanding. Number 5, present effective ways on how to integrate global multiculturalism in the lesson using appropriate delivery strategies, instructional materials, and assessment tools. Number 6, draw relevant life lessons and significant values from personal experience in demonstrating multicultural literacy. 7, analyze research abstract in global and multicultural literacy and its implications in the teaching learning process. And last, draft relevant policy in addressing multiculturalism in school. So, multicultural literacy consists of the skills and ability to identify the creators of knowledge and their interest, from Banks, 1996. So, according to Banks, 1996, multicultural literacy is about skills on how we are going to respect and understand others, respecting their perspectives, their identity, their knowledge, interest, and how we are going to take different perspectives of others. Multicultural literacy is also involved in education. Education for multicultural literacy should help students to develop 21st century skills and attitudes that are needed to become active citizens who will work hard achieving social justice within communities because of the growing racial, language, and ethnic diversity in the country. Multicultural literacy needs to be transferred in substantial ways to prepare students to function effectively in the 21st century. This is from Boots 2008. So in terms of education, the role of multicultural literacy is to help students to develop 21st century skills like learning skills such as critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. In terms of literacy, these are the skills the students should have, like information, knowing media, technology, and life skills that we should develop, like flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. Those mentioned skills will help students to become active citizens that will work in achieving social justice in our community and even across the world. Moreover, it also gives a deeper understanding on others' interests, culture, and ability that will serve as a knowledge on how we can prevent social issues like depression and oppression and to know the perspective of other people. Just like multicultural literacy, the goal of global literacy is to raise awareness on the different social issues and how to address those issues and to understand others despite having differences. With the help of global literacy, we are able to understand the perspective of others, make decisions that can have good benefits and positive impact to everyone. As a student, we should take action about social issues and tell everyone that we are equal despite having differences. That would create positive impact and to help change the world into something better. According to the Ontario Ministry of Education, a global citizen should possess the following characteristics. So, number 1, respect for humans regardless of race, gender, religion, and political perspectives. So, we should respect others despite us having differences. Next, respect for diversity and various perspectives. So, respect is very important, especially having different races, cultures, and even organization, and also the ideas and their perspectives. Next, promote sustainable patterns of living, consumption, and production. Refuse using plastic, saving energy and others, and being progressive in the consumption and production. Next is appreciate the natural world and demonstrate respect and the right of all living things. So respect should be practiced everywhere. We should respect everything in this world, and in fact, everyone is deserved to be respected. So at this point, we will now discuss the interconnecting of multicultural and global literacy. So every classroom contains of different students of different races, religions, and cultural groups. Aware that students embrace diverse behaviors, cultural values, patterns, and practice, and communication. Yet, they all share one community, which is the educational opportunity. This is from Wu 2014. So, in every classroom, there are lots of differences in terms of races, cultures, religion, that are basically leads to bullying or even discrimination. As a future educator, we should raise awareness in our classroom, teach students to respect others despite of having differences, create friendly, a peaceful environment that would everyone should practice, especially respecting others and accepting them. Lastly, the knowledge about multicultural literacy and global literacy should be implemented and applied in every classroom. So again, the four dimensions of this framework is knowledge, values, attitudes, and skills. So we will start with the knowledge. Examine global, local, and intercultural issues. So for us to become globally competent, we should have the knowledge about the issues around us. Next is the values. Understand and appreciate the perspectives of others. So after having the knowledge about the issues around us, we should have to start understand and appreciate others. Next is the attitude, which is to engage in open, appropriate, and effective interactions across cultures. So having good attitude can lead us to understand, accept, and appreciate the ideas and perspectives of others and their worldviews. Next is the skills. After having the knowledge, attitude, and values, we should have to apply it. So, the skills. So, after having the knowledge, which is to know the issues around us, we have the values, appreciate and understand others, and then the attitude, which is to have effective interactions with others. Last is the skills. We have to apply this in our actions for us to find solution or take action with those issues. So we will now elaborate what is global competence. Global competence is a multi-dimensional construct that requires a combination of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values successfully applied to global issues or intercultural situations. So, this involves the four dimensions of the competence framework. So, it's going to enhance the skills, values, and behavior so that we can prepare young people to the interconnected and changing world. Also about how we are going to engage ourselves as a citizen who can solve a problem in our world. So with the help of the competence framework, we are able to recognize and analyze the issue globally and locally, and also for us to understand, appreciate the perspective of others. The dimensions of multicultural education. So I have identified and listed these three dimensions of multicultural education, and they are content integration, the knowledge construction process, and personal, social, and civic action. So, content integration. So, teachers use several different approaches to integrate content about racial, ethnical, and cultural groups into the curriculum. And one of the most popular is the contributions approach. When this approach is used, teachers insert isolated facts about ethnic and cultural groups' heroes and heroines into the curriculum, without changing the structure of their lesson plans and unit. The additive approach is also frequently used by teachers to integrate content about ethnic and cultural groups into the school curriculum. In this approach, the organization and structure of the curriculum remains unchanged. Special units on ethnic and cultural groups are added to the curriculum, such as units on African Americans in the West, Indian removal, and the internment of the Japanese Americans. While an improvement over the contribution approach, the additive approach is problematic because ethnic and cultural groups remain on the margin of the mainstream curriculum. Then we have the knowledge construction and transformation. The transformation approach brings content about ethnic and cultural groups from the margin to the center of the curriculum. It helps students to understand how knowledge is constructed and how it reflects the experience, values, and perspectives of its creators. In this approach, the structure, assumptions, and perspectives of the curriculum are changed so that the concepts, events, and issues taught are viewed from the perspectives and experience of a range of racial, ethnic, and cultural groups. The center of the curriculum no longer focuses on mainstream and dominant groups, but on an event, issue, or concept that is viewed from many different perspectives and points of view. This is done while at the same time helping students to understand the nation's common heritage and tradition. Teachers should help students to understand that while they live in a diverse nation, all citizens of a nation-state share many cultural traditions, values, and political ideals that cement the nation. Multicultural education seeks to actualize the idea of a pluribus unum, for example, to create a society that recognizes and respects the cultures of its diverse people within a framework of democratic values that are shared by all. Personal, social, and civic action. An important goal of multicultural education is to help students acquire the knowledge and commitments needed to make reflective decisions and to make personal, justice, and civic action to promote democracy and democratic living. Opportunities for action help students to develop a sense of personal and civic efficacy, faith in their ability to make changes in the institution in which they live, and situations to apply the knowledge they have learned. Action activities and projects should be tuned to the cognitive and moral development levels of students. Practicality and feasibility should also be important considerations. Students in the primary grades can take action by making a commitment to stop laughing at ethnic jokes that sting. Students in the early and middle grades can act by reading books about other social, ethnic, and cultural groups. Assessment strategy for global competence and global understanding. Global competence assessment measures students' capability to examine local, global, and intercultural issues to engage in open, appropriate, and effective interactions with people from different cultures and to act for collective well-being and sustainable development. Global understanding assessment, when appropriate, assignments that involve engagement in the school and local communities are ways to encourage authentic real-world interactions beyond the classroom. Consider online interactions through project-based learning with classmates in other places, as well as group assignments either face-to-face or online.
I have noticed that our world has a high cultural diversity. This means that many teachers today find themselves facing an increasingly multicultural classroom. To fully embrace multiculturalism, there needs to be a school-wide effort and an implemented policy for all classrooms to follow. There are plenty of initiatives that individual teachers can take to help their classes specifically. This variety of experience and background creates tolerance and mutual respect within the classroom that is transcribed into later life and can even improve academic results. These are some ideas that I have listed. Number 1. Celebrate different cultural festivals. Pupils will find this an easy way to embrace different cultures and also one that pupils will find the most fun. Recognizing significant festivals across the world are important for educating our class in new cultures. It will also help build an inclusive atmosphere, making our diverse students feel more comfortable. Number 2. Attempt to learn a bit more about the different backgrounds of pupils in our class. This is beneficial for pupils from various backgrounds. We can learn a little about their culture and even learn a little of their language to show that we understand them. It may even be worthwhile to chat with the parents of specific children who are having difficulties integrating in order to better understand how to assess them. Number 3. Include a variety of books in our classroom book collection. Including a selection of books from many cultures and backgrounds in the classroom is a terrific approach to introduce multiculturalism. It can create a sense of familiarity for children from various cultures, and it allows other students to read something other than what they would ordinarily read. Number 4. Hold a food fair to celebrate different dishes from around the world. This idea could be a full-day event or an occasional monthly occurrence. Each pupil could bring in a dish that is commonly eaten in their culture for others to try. They could talk a bit about the history of the dish or if it is made for a special event or festival. Number 5. Set presentation projects for students on culture or nation. You might either ask them to write about their own culture and deliver it to the class, or you could ask them to research another culture to present on. It could be a good idea to do this in pairs so that they will feel more comfortable presenting. This type of activity can supplement your curriculum by including themes that your students are currently studying. Number 6. Host a culture day. This could be a day for pupils to share their cultural identities with others. Whilst also learning about other students, there could be a variety of things to include in this day. Maybe bring a certain food and make posters with visual information for each student to talk about. Encourage pupils to ask questions and give each one a chance to discuss their cultural heritage. And lastly, number 7. Hold events with guests and motivational speakers from different backgrounds. It is quite common for schools to hire speakers and guests from various industries and workplaces to inspire students or share an important message. When doing this, it could be an idea to have a good variety of guests that represent different parts of society, as it can be more motivational for pupils to have role models that they can relate to. It will show that no matter what your gender, physical ability, or cultural heritage, you can succeed in life. As future educators, the suggestions that I made are just a few of the steps we can take to include students from all cultural backgrounds in our classes. There are many more ways to celebrate multiculturalism in the classroom. Supporting multicultural awareness among students fosters mutual respect and a healthy working environment, and prepares students to play an active role in the diverse world in which we live in. These photos here signify the life lessons and significant values that I have personally experienced in multicultural literacy. The photo on the left side indicates the friendship that I have with a variety of races. Being indulged in a diverse friend group means you can learn how to appreciate them even with such differences from one another. You can share and learn about each other's cultures to broaden one another's understanding of themselves. The photo on the right side illustrates unity and bond. After knowing and understanding the different cultures from each other, you and your friends or colleagues will feel a sense of being united or joined as a whole. A feeling that being able to understand each other brings you closer and closer until you will be united together, creating a special bond that makes us strong and inseparable.
We move on to global and multicultural literacy and its application on the teaching-learning process. Now, as schools continue to embrace cultural differences, global and multicultural literacy then brings more attention to diversity, equity, and social justice. The teaching-learning process have changed over time, and global and multicultural literacy have just created changes within the classroom. According to Booth in 2008, by making small changes within the classroom, it can create big changes globally. What are the implications of global and multicultural literacy to teaching? Global and multicultural literacy allows teachers to teach their students the existence of other cultures and that these deserve to be acknowledged and respected by everybody. It helps teachers develop and nurture necessary social consciousness and social justice needed in executing their roles in the classroom. This has made the whole teaching process more sensitive and more tolerant from these differences. When it comes to learning, global and multicultural literacy allows learners to view the world in different angles and different perspectives. It helps the students to respect and recognize cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity. It also helps students to be advocates of multiculturalism. However, according to Banks in 2003, in order for students to develop these attitudes and skills, it requires basic knowledge prior to teaching students how to question assumptions about cultural knowledge and how to critique and critically think about these important cultural issues, which is what essentially makes multicultural literacy a 21st century literacy. As diversity grows, schools need to have realistic approach in promoting equity and justice towards diverse classrooms. Cultural understanding and respect might not be enough to maintain order and resist cultural issues. One way of doing so is to create relevant policies addressing multiculturalism within the school. In drafting these policies, there are some things to consider. Number one is to counter racism and discrimination. One of the ways to effectively create a policy is to counter the issues that are associated with it. In multiculturalism, it usually includes racism and discrimination. Number two, promote positive relationships. Having a positive relationship with other race and ethnicities can be one of the best solutions to avoid cultural issues and appreciate each other instead. Number three, comprehensive teaching approach. To avoid unintentionally stepping into other cultures, it is an option to discuss subjects inclusively. That means to discuss things in a larger scope or in a larger perspective. Number four, assess student specific needs. Schools should assess students with specific academic needs or problems, especially those who are new to the environment. Students of diverse backgrounds could manifest different problems or needs, and so the school should act upon. One of the best examples of policies addressing multiculturalism in school is made by the Government of New South Wales, Australia. This policy responds to the cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity of New South Wales. It commits the schools to provide opportunities that enable all students to achieve equitable education and social outcomes and participate successfully in our culturally diverse society. So the policy has 6 points. Number one, schools foster student well-being and community harmony through the provision of programs and practices which counter racism and discrimination. Number two, schools provide teaching and learning programs that develop intercultural understanding, promote positive relationships, and enable all students to participate as active Australian and global citizens. Number three, schools ensure inclusive teaching practices which recognize and respect cultural, linguistic, and religious backgrounds of all students and promote an open and tolerant attitude towards cultural diversity, different perspectives, and worldviews. Number four, schools provide programs that enable students learning English as an additional language or dialect to develop their English language and literacy skills so that they are able to fully participate in schooling and achieve equitable educational outcomes. Number five, schools deliver differentiated curriculum and targeted teaching and learning programs to address specific learning and well-being needs of students from culturally diverse backgrounds, including newly arrived and refugee students. Number six, schools promote positive community relations through effective communication with parents and community members from a diverse cultural, linguistic, and religious backgrounds, and by providing opportunities from their active engagement in the life of the school. Again, that is an example of a policy addressing multiculturalism in school, and that is from New South Wales, Australia. In schools, we may have differences, but we all have commonalities. Just as Q said in 2014, every classroom contains students of different race, religion, and cultural groups. Students embrace diverse behaviors, cultural values, patterns of practice, and communications, yet they all share one commonality: their educational opportunity. That ends the discussion, and thank you.